Hey, what's going on, friends and family? My name is Skylent, and today we are going to be talking about what AAA means to me. This is going to be an editorial. It's going to be like a gaming podcast, and if you're new here, we talk about games and stuff, and I start the conversation, I begin the dialogue, and then we finish it in the comments below with a tippity-typing. You know, we bring in citations, and we try to be all educated. No, we don't. We just spit nonsense. But anyways, guys, yeah, I'm totally going to be there in the comments with you, so if you have anything to say, please don't be afraid to do so. Unless you say slurs and things, then I'll delete your fucking comments. So please keep it civilized, but yeah, don't worry about being passionate, okay? That's cool. I'm gonna be passionate. I'm gonna be colorful in this video anyways. I think it's something that can get people kind of riled up because this is money we're talking. But basically, when we talk about AAA games, we're talking about how much money a game costs and how much it is worth. AAA is kind of a vague term, and I think it's becoming more and more vague as time goes on because we have more ways to buy games. We have more ways to spend money inside of games that we already purchased. We have more ways to digest and consume games, you know, episodically or just, you know, one and done, buy to play, subscription. There's all sorts of different ways to play and consume games now, and also to develop games. So the term AAA has kind of lost some of its meaning, but generally people, when they think AAA game, they think it's got a developer, they have these people, the publishers, they have publishers, they should be proper publishers, but I think there's some gray areas, and we'll get into that. So you have publishers, you have the developer, they're teamed up together, there's a lot of money backing them from investors and, you know, other ways, and they make a high quality game that is fully featured, though this term has kind of become more gray than any other. So real quick, when we're talking about AAA games, we basically mean it has a publisher and a developer, and they are invested. Now, the gray areas is going to be stuff like, I'm going to say the game Crowfall. It's an indie MMO, but it's an MMO, so it's a fully featured MMO from everything that I've seen about it. So in ways, it's a AAA indie game, but those two things kind of don't make sense, sort of. But at the same time, it is indie because it is independently, you know, produced. And it's being, yeah, okay, it's just kind of weird. I mean, it's using Kickstarter, so maybe these crowdfunding things are becoming a little bit more gray because they're self-publishing, but kind of not really in ways. And then you have these like AAA companies like Ubisoft or, you know, like Sony, who are making mainly Sony actually, who are partnering and publishing these small development studios like No Man's Sky, for instance, was kind of an indie game, but then it got a shit ton of money and had a ton of advertisement and should have been able to really expand itself from an indie type of game, but it ended up launching, you know, and it was an indie game. We also have Journey, you know, stuff like that. A lot of games by Sony they seem indie-ish, right? They seem indie mechanically. You know, when you actually play the game, when you physically buy the game and play it, it seems like what would be an indie game, like, you know, the smaller, more creative, unique game that's not $60 or $80 or whatever. But it's not technically indie because it's not independently published. So there is that gray zone. We're gonna kind of just be bypassing that, but I just wanted to let you guys be aware of why AAA is kind of losing some of its meaning because it's just getting all sorts of vague and weird. So we're not talking about a specific genre here, okay? When we think indie, I think you really shouldn't think of a genre of game. Indie is not a genre of game, okay? There's lots of different kinds of games that are indie, and there's lots of different kinds of games that are AAA, but it's not like the genre. Okay, so AAA basically means, are you paying the full price? And right now in retail for United States, it is $60, though it's kind of creeping up in, you know, kind of sneaky ways with season passes and, you know, monetization schemes inside the game and things like that. But basically, $60 is full price. I think in Canada it's $80. In Australia it's probably $120. I don't fucking know. It gets pretty expensive in some areas and a lot cheaper in other areas, which is why there's these like gray, you know, sort of resellers like G2A. They kind of, you know, buy from poorer countries and then sell them to richer countries, and they, you know, get a cut of that profit, and you get a little discount. Kind of cheap and weird, but whatever. Anyways, so yeah, AAA though mostly means full priced and full featured. But now in today's age, which is more and more persistently online, we are getting games that are not quite full featured, okay? Now, for the longest time, actually, especially like for FPSs would generally have a campaign and then a separate multiplayer mode, and then they would actually have more things added into the multiplayer, which really excited me personally, and I think really the heyday was probably the Xbox 360 days of Halo, Gears of War, and Call of Duties, okay? So you had Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 specifically, we had Halo 3, I want to say Halo 3 was really good, and Halo 4 and Gears of War 2 and onward always had these game modes. And to me, when I think AAA, this is really my definition, is going to be like triple C's, okay? You have the single player campaign, okay? You have a campaign, so that's the 1C or 1A in my opinion. That's one part of the game. You pay $20 for that. You're playing for the story, for the campaign, for the world setting, to continue episodically, you know, the journey, you know, Halo 3, finish the fight, whatever. So that's what you're paying for. In my opinion, $20. Okay, you're gonna get $20 worth out of the campaign. Even if you don't like it, it's still kind of fun, you know? So there's that. Then you have co-op, in my opinion. I think that's really important. It's not the competitive mode, it is the co-op mode. And like in Halo 3, you could have co-op in the campaign, or in Call of Duty, they even had a separate mode called Spec Ops, I believe, where you can actually have a very unique two-player situations and scenarios that were incredibly challenging and unique and varied and very fun. And then also the Gears of War's campaign was kind of designed to be played as co-op as well. So really exciting stuff there. So that's the co-op. You have $20 to play with another friend, couch or online. Extremely awesome things happening there. And then the third one is going to be the competitive mode of the game. Now, I understand that, you know, some games are single player, some games are multiplayer only. So how do you define a AAA game then? Well, I still expect it to be fully featured, okay? So I would really like 3 ways of playing a game, maybe just because arbitrarily there's 3 A's, even though it's just supposed to be like a quality thing, you know, quality polish. I understand that. But in my opinion, if I'm gonna spend $60 on a game, which I have spent $60 on multiplayer only games. Titanfall, we've also got Overwatch 2, and that's why I'm gonna use that in the background here, because I mean, it is a highly polished game, and so a lot of these games are completely unique in what they do. Titanfall, really unique game as well. Didn't have a campaign when it first launched. Overwatch doesn't have a campaign. It doesn't have a co-op mode. I know it has the seasonal events, and they might add it on later, but for the most part, what it is yes, it is the absolute best and the epitome. It is the pinnacle of hero shooter and competitive FPS gameplay. Abso-freaking-lutely, no other game is going to really properly compete with it in terms of competitiveness in that genre, okay? It's basically the genre-defining game for hero shooters. When you think hero shooter, you think Overwatch first. So it is the best, okay? There's no debate about that. So in a way, I guess you can say it is AAA. And it is AAA. It's fucking Blizzard, and they're huge, okay? And they put a lot of effort into the production of this game. It's AAA. But it doesn't have that many game modes. And for a hero shooter, it's got characters, but they're releasing them very slowly. High quality, but they're releasing it significantly slower than its competitors like Paladins, or even branching off like in Rainbow Six Siege. So yeah, anyways. There's that. It doesn't have that many game modes. It doesn't have that many maps. It doesn't have really that many ways to play the game. Yeah, every character can be different and unique, and, you know, team compositions and everything. There is replay value to the game, but I'm just saying, for $60, if I were to go back to Halo 4, I had a campaign, which was also co-op. I had a episodic campaign, which is a completely separate additional campaign. I had, you know, I had map creator, map editor. I had the game mode editor. There were so many different game modes you could create and all that good stuff. Or what if we compare it to a game that's kind of in its similar genre, like Team Fortress 2, which has a dedicated and expansive episodic co-op mode, man versus machine. It has server browsers. It has tons of customization with its characters and cosmetics, though, you know, it doesn't have as many heroes. That is true, so we can kind of say that's a moot point. But overall, Team Fortress 2 has a lot of content completely for free, and then we have Overwatch, which has a sort of monetization scheme. It does have microtransactions. How you feel about that, I think it's up for debate, but for the most part, it's not pay to win or anything. But still, it's a $60 game that has microtransactions that right now doesn't have the content of what I perceive as a AAA game. It does not have a single player. It does have free comics. That's cool, but so does Team Fortress 2. And so does many other games. Halo has books and stuff, but also Halo came with a free additional episodic campaign. Gears of War as well has all sorts of different extra game modes and stuff like that. And I'm not saying every game needs a map maker, needs server browsers, though that would be nice. You know, it doesn't need all these additional things to be a AAA game, but when we think AAA, we think of the highest quality, and Overwatch in its genre is the highest quality, but I feel that a lot of people really don't like looking at games like that. They want a fully featured, truly fully featured experience, and for Overwatch, which is a multiplayer only game, it did not even launch with a server browser. So if we're just looking at just the multiplayer component, you know, so we're not talking about co-op, we're not talking about, well, I mean, I guess co-op is multiplayer, but we're not talking about the single player, you know, all that can be avoided, but it doesn't even have the full features of a multiplayer game. So you could say, well, on PC, it's $40. That is true. But for consoles, it was a $60 game. And in my opinion, even though it's not the worst game to play on consoles, I mean, I even played an Unreal Championship 2, the Leandre conflict on consoles. Had no auto aim whatsoever. It was horrible, but I loved it. I loved it and I enjoyed it. But still, not the best game to play on consoles. Not at all. Overwatch, though, is not. It's not. It's okay. It's better than some games, but it's not. You don't really want to play it on console. If you play it on console, you're not getting the full experience. Some heroes are completely they don't work on console. Hanzo, you just really can't play Hanzo on console. It just doesn't really work. And at the same time, like Torbjorn is a little bit strong, right? So you're not getting the real experience on console. Plus, not only that, but there's other games that have, a more console experience and they have more features. They just have simply more features. So in today's day of age, when we're playing multiplayer, games like For Honor just coming out, which technically has a campaign, that's cool, but it doesn't have a server browser, it doesn't have dedicated servers, period, kind of. I mean, it's got this weird black magic peer-to-peer thing going on. The campaign was obviously half-assed. It didn't have as much production value as the multiplayer, and at the same time, I don't know. It just feels kind of lacking in a lot of different ways. And even though it's the best in its genre right now, with I don't know how you define it. It's like a battleground game. It's like a 3D 4-player, 8-player fighting game. I don't know. It's weird. It's the best in its genre. That's true. But so was Titanfall. Titanfall was like this whole new thing. It was fucking crazy and ridiculous. It doesn't matter. It wasn't fully featured to many people. It got amazing reviews technically because when people review games, they review it like, oh, this is this kind of game. This is a fighting game. It's not expected to have a campaign, which I actually already did a video on that. This is Overwatch. It's a multiplayer only game. It's not expected to have a campaign. But other people who have $60 want more. They want all the $60. Now you could say that with a lot of multiplayer only games that the cost is kind of like that's upfront and then you get free stuff afterwards. But that's really more of a new trend. And you're not wrong though, is in Overwatch you are going to get free new maps, you're going to get free new characters, you're going to get free new updates, and you're also supporting the competitive scene with that money. So that's kind of where the money is going. And they've been teasing, co-op stuff, and I think they do want a co-op game mode, especially, emulating Team Fortress 2. I definitely see that and I believe that. But the thing is upfront cost, especially for console players in Overwatch and in many other games that are claiming to be AAA games. In my opinion, they're not. They're not fully featured. They don't have multiple ways to play the game. They have their one very constrained way to play the game. And if you're not in love with that, absolutely in love with that, then you're not going to enjoy it. AAA to me is... Honestly, guys, it has to be multiple different game modes. So to me, that's Halo, that's Call of Duty, that's Gears of War. Those are full-on productions. They're essentially like 3 different games in one. That to me is AAA, and it's kind of unfair to really put those kind of games in the same batch as something like Overwatch or Titanfall, even though the new Titanfall does have a new campaign. It's just those games obviously spent so much more money in the development of the whole game, and then they're still being sold for the same price as these other games. I feel that if you're multiplayer only, you should probably knock off $20. You should probably sell for $40. Which again, that's how Overwatch did. I think For Honor is probably a $40 game. Again, I know it has a campaign, but real talk, for what it is, it's a $40 game. It's not a $60 game. As much as I love it, many fighting games are selling as $60 games, and they don't even launch with fucking campaigns, proper campaigns. Looking at you, Street Fighter V. A lot of games are really, they're technically, I guess, AAA games, but really to the consumer, to the consumer who is looking for a full-featured game, it's not. So a lot of these games and just reviewers, period, are kind of getting away with calling games, high production. They're big games, big budget games. They're AAA, but to the consumer, I don't think that really translates that well. So that's really what I wanted to say here. Is yes, I guess you could say a AAA game is any game that has a publisher, but it's becoming a little bit more vague and gray, and I think we should find and redefine new terms so that the consumer has easier time at finding games and also a more fair time at spending their money and also just having overall more fun because of it. So those are my thoughts and opinions, guys. Let me know what in your opinion, what do you think AAA really means? Should we define something new? Should it be triple C? Should a game be triple C, like kind of what I'm envisioning? Should there be more tiers? Should there be fucking tiers? You know how there's like an ESRB rating? Should there be like ratings for for like how produced a game is and how much content is in the game. Would it be worth to spend $80 on a game like Halo 3? Again, God, fucking Halo 3 was amazing, dude. Or should games be more strict with their pricing, because you can actually go and purchase Overwatch for $60 on console. You can't do it for $40. That's kind of unfair. Just because it's a boxed retailer, we can't do that. I don't know, man. There's some shady shit going on. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below. Thank you so much, guys. Hope you guys had fun with the podcast. My name's Skylent, and I'll see you in the next one.